This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Very Hard to Submit. Go to vhtsny.com and check out their kimonos, compression gear, and apparel. This is a brand we are excited to be supported by. Their gear is high quality with a clean design. Go to vhtsny.com and see for yourself.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Grappler Union podcast. Javier Plummo alongside Anthony Zito. Our guest today is Jim Bennitt. Jim is a Brazil 021 brown belt and is the co-owner and instructor at Tejas Yoga. He's also the founder of Yoga for Grapplers. That's Yoga, the number 4 Grapplers. Enjoy.
I hate the 6 minutes. That's what happens in that 6 minutes.
You told me, using any technique that works, never to limit myself to one style. Keep an open mind.
We're not here to take part, we're here to take over.
In order to become more peaceful, in order for you to become better and strategize your life.
All right, good. I'm glad. Jim Bennitt, welcome.
Thank you.
I looked you up a little bit. Yoga, right? Mm-hmm. Do you train jujitsu?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. I was just quick because when Javi says Jim Bennitt, I'm like, cool. I don't know who Jim Bennitt is though.
We got the full recommendation from Joey Deal. Yeah, that was the initial connection there.
That was the initial connection.
And you train Brazil 021, right?
Correct.
So yeah, know some folks over there that you know as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know Paul Doe?
Paul Doe and I are close friends. One of my closest training friends. I saw that match.
Did you? Did you see him fuck me up?
The Doe hold. Oh, the Doe hold's famous, man.
Doe hold is real, legit.
I would like to personally claim credit for creating that term, but it's obviously such a natural, it just rolls off the tongue.
It does.
I'm sure 40 people said it before me.
Yeah.
Possibly, yes.
But I got the picture.
You do have the picture.
Yeah. Did Paul ever show you the picture?
No.
Yeah, there's a great story.
He told me about a shoe presentation or something like that after the match.
That's what
I heard
all
about
that.
that.
I gave him the. I'm like, you've earned this.
Yes,
sir.
he took my shoe home with him. Yes, it's 100% accurate. I'll have to sign it next time I see him.
For sure, we should make that happen. One of these days, we'll get around to putting together that little guy open mat that we've been talking about for the greater part of like 5 months.
Yes.
Yeah, in the new year, we're going to set that up
after your Nogi Worlds.
Yes,
that just remembered, or you just told me about, it and I'm like, man, I didn't know you were competing in it.
We need to take a poll from the greater listening audience and find out whether or not I've actually mentioned it on the podcast in your presence.
I guess I don't know.
He zones me out. Man.
He zones you out for sure.
I probably do. That's probably what it is.
He's like, it's just hot talking again.
He's talking. Start thinking about puppy dogs and ice cream. I don't know.
It's a weird place for your mind to drift.
It is, but it's okay.
So let me ask. Let me jump right into this. Which came first? Not the chicken or the egg, but the jiu-jitsu or the yoga?
Well, grappling came first overall.
Okay, sure. I love when we lead in a story like that.
Like a lot of people in jiu-jitsu, I wrestled as a child. Cool. I started wrestling in 6th grade, I think, and I wrestled into college, 1 year in college, and basically in my early 20s, I was, I spent many years wrestling, lifting weights, and everything that goes with that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So my early to mid 20s, I was I kind of felt sick of feeling beat up all the time. I was always sore someplace, or always a little bit injured, always feeling beat up. And in your mid 20s, this was in the early 90s, so there weren't a lot of places to train jiu-jitsu. I didn't know much about jiu-jitsu other than what I saw in the first couple of UFCs. So I didn't really know what to do. You can't keep wrestling in your mid 20s for the most part, and there's no place to go. There's not a lot of wrestling clubs in the city.
Right.
I was living in downtown Chicago by now, but there were a lot of yoga studios. So there were a lot of places to practice yoga, I should say, at that time. And I was having some low back pain. My left side of my low back and my left hip were giving me some problems. And one of my friends from high school wrestling was now in physical therapy school at UIC, so we would hang out quite a bit. And I told him, I'm like, man, my back is killing me. And he's like, well, let me do some tests on you. So I did some mobility tests. And he's like, dude, man, for 25, you got really tight hips. You should do some stretching. And I don't think he said yoga. I think he said stretching. But anyway, I knew I lived around some places that offered yoga. So like, well, let me try this yoga thing. So I was getting kind of interested in, back then we call it alternative health, yoga and herbs and all different kinds of ways to keep healthy.
And this is in the mid-90s?
Yes, mid-90s. So I stumbled upon this yoga studio, and I took a intro to yoga class, so a class that's, for complete beginners. It met once a week, and I remember it was Saturday mornings, and I'm like, shit, man, Saturday mornings. Mid-20s, living in the city, Friday nights, you go out drinking.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have to do that a little hungover the next day. That's what you're thinking.
So anyway, I'm like, well, I guess I can do it. So I remember not going out on this Friday night, and waking up early Saturday morning. It was like 8 a.m. on a Saturday. So I'm like, well, I got to do it. So I remember going, we did some really basic things. And when I left, I felt like a new man. I felt incredible. I felt strong in a different kind of way. I felt like I didn't have much pain in my back anymore. And just felt like it was something I wanted to do more of.
After one class?
Yeah, after one class.
Really?
But of course, it's hard to create new habits. So I wasn't really used to doing that. I did the whole course. It was met on Saturdays for a month. Mm-hmm. So I went to four classes. Felt great, but before long, my friends are, hey, let's go out Friday night. So it didn't last for too long. This went on for a few years. I was very off and on with my yoga practice, but I always remember going back and feeling great. But again, it wouldn't stick as I moved around the city and went to different neighborhoods until I moved to River West, and I found a yoga studio there and some teachers there that I really connected with, and it really inspired me to keep going. So yeah, that was after about 3 years, and at that time too, at this point I had completely forgotten about wrestling, but I didn't lift weights much anymore, and I kind of even at this point when I started really getting into yoga, I even lost contact with a lot of my friends who I grew up with wrestling. Because when you grow up wrestling, like with your friends in jujitsu, they're your buddies. You bond with them in a different kind of way, where they're the guys you hang out with, and they're like your family. So when I really started getting into yoga, I even stopped hanging out with my old friends, not purposely, but I was just I was really diving deep into this thing that I found so powerful. So for a good decade, all I did was yoga. Everything, my friends were yoga people. Everything I read was about yoga. I spent my time practicing yoga at least once or twice a day, sometimes 3 hours a day. Wow. And a little bit like the way Javi does jujitsu. Multiple times a day, right?
Yeah.
So after a good decade of that, maybe a little bit longer, I actually started missing what I used to get out of wrestling. I started missing my old friends. I started missing that camaraderie, between people you're trying to kill.
Right.
And
no way to describe it better than that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure what to do, because it's not a lot of places. Now I'm in my, my late 30s at this point. There's not a lot of places for you to wrestle, but I still always, I heard about jiu-jitsu. I still watch some UFC stuff here and there. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to find out where to go. So I asked a friend of mine who I grew up with wrestling, because his name is Sean Barnett. He used to, he's now the head coach at the University of Michigan wrestling, and he was the guy on our wrestling team that was the best guy. He was really good. He was always top 2 in the nation, real good international record and competition. So he at the time had a wrestling school in Naperville called Overtime Wrestling. Mm-hmm. And so I figured he would know, because I knew he trained some MMA guys, and I think he knew some jiu-jitsu guys too. So I asked him, and he directed me to Brazil 2-1 with Andre and Hanette, because he helped train Hanette for one of her ADCC championships for wrestling. Nice. Yeah, so that was the connection there. So he directed me over there, and I met him, and from there, you know how it is. I got hooked.
The rest is history.
The rest is history, yeah.
What year was that?
I was thinking of this last night. 6.5 years ago. Oh, wow. Either 6.5 or 7 years ago. So maybe 2011-ish.
Right.
I was 40 years old, I remember. I'm 47 now, so.
Okay.
I would not have obviously this is audio only, but yeah, I would not have guessed that, man. Yeah, that yoga is keeping you young.
It helps. There. It helps. I hear a lot of guys say jiu-jitsu too is the fountain of youth. I think the combination of both is helpful.
Right.
Because in some ways jiu-jitsu keeps you young for sure, but man, in some ways, it beats you up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of guys where I've met through jiu-jitsu where it's just like, I cannot believe how young you actually are. I would have guessed you're much older. Like, no offense to him, but like Lovato. Like, there's a guy that definitely looks way older than he actually is, but he's lived a hard life. A lot of it doing jiu-jitsu. So, yeah. Then we got babyface assassin over here.
I missed that fight last night.
Man, I missed all the fights last night.
Did you watch any?
I caught a couple of highlights.
I'll have to get on that Grappling Rewind podcast and see what happened.
Yeah.
I really wanted to see. The problem with that fight, it just goes so late.
Oh, that fight, I thought you were talking about UFC.
Oh, no, I didn't watch UFC.
I started watching it and I fell asleep.
I missed both, yeah.
I started to watch the Fight to Win, and I think it was the second black belt match. That's last night.
You're done.
I remember I fell asleep. I was like, I'm just so tired.
I really love Fight to Win, man.
So do I.
Yeah.
I've heard you guys talk about it before, and I agree completely that they're a little too long.
They're just.
Yeah. I love going to them.
Yeah.
They're the most entertaining thing to watch as far as jiu-jitsu that I've seen. But man, they're so long.
They're just. I don't know. I just don't. And this is I see this with a lot of jiu-jitsu competitions, like that Fight to Win style grappling game.
Where it's all super fights.
All super fights. And then it's just fucking 6-7 hours. It's just, come on. What are we doing here? I enjoyed competing at Fight to Win.
Right.
And I really would like to do it again. However,
Paldo calling you out.
Yeah, I would definitely do a rematch with Paldo for sure. But what I'd rather see, brown black or just black belts, or I would like that. Also, I get what they're doing and showcasing the purples and the children. That's all good, but I think they should do some offset ones as well, where it's just all blacks and it's just 10 fights, all super fights, and
Okay, so now here's the thing, because
kind of like, okay, so say you have like the UFC does, they have their off shows too, where it's like, oh, we could watch those if we wanted to see the undercards, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then we just see the main event. So have the undercards not be a part so much of the main event. You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay, but if you're going to a UFC event, like you're paying to get a physical ticket, you're probably showing up. I mean, sometimes
2:30,
guys,
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Some guys show up well after the prelims have started. I mean, that's not
agreed,
unknown,
right?
But like that's gonna be a long day, a long event if you go to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you're watching at home and you don't feel like tuning into the prelims, that's easy to skip out on. You just go for the main card. But even then, the main cards, how many hours is your typical UFC of main card?
Maybe 3.
Yeah,
4
3-ish,
hours.
3 or 4. Yeah, somewhere in there. I'd have to really go back and look at it, but I'm pretty sure most of them are over 3 hours.
Right. But we're already 11 o'clock at night on our time, on Central Time last night, and I was like, I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, it was a Cali show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to start.
I know.
Yeah.
I wonder if they mixed in the belts, like
like interspersed, like purple, black, brown, mix it up a little. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'd like to see some more black belts compete. The last Fight to Win, I didn't make it to watch some black belts fights because I wanted to see Joey Deal fight.
Mm-hmm. I had to leave right at that match. I was so ticked.
He's pretty fun to watch compete.
Yeah.
You could tell he really enjoys it, and he's out there having fun, and he does great.
Yeah.
But after that, I was out.
Yeah, no. I don't know what the solution is, because I really don't want to cut the lower belts. I don't want to cut the kids.
Right.
Obviously, it's not like it's my decision anyhow. But
no.
like if I was going to throw together a tournament, I feel like I don't want too small of a. Like if it was a tournament format, like EBI is only like 16 guys, so and that turns into a pretty lengthy thing because of the number of rounds.
Because the overtime rounds.
So
right.
like if you just had 16 guys of all super fights, that could be a really, really short night, and people would be like, oh, okay, we were here for like 45 minutes and everyone was a finisher and it's over. Or it could be,
Yeah, but I think that's exciting. I mean, if you went to a UFC event and everyone got knocked out in the first round,
there would be a lot of intermissions though. Like that's just it. Like the UFC's, they've got to keep a schedule because it's on TV and whatnot.
A lot more commercials.
Right,
for
there'd
people
be
watching,
extra commercials.
for sure.
There'd be extra interviews, things like that.
Right.
So yeah,
I like the UFC events.
Right.
Obviously. Watching them, and I think they have the right formula of how they put the show on. I think it's well produced, obviously, and I just think that trying to just not do that just to not copy them? I don't know. Why? What's wrong with doing a more? I'm also a big advocate of showing replays, and I don't know why that hasn't been done yet on Flow Grappling. I don't know if it's a Flow Grappling issue.
Yeah, I mean, we should probably just reach out to Seth and ask him why.
Right, because in jiu-jitsu, and this is not just for me, but I'm just saying for people who are just fans of jiu-jitsu, sometimes they're watching a fight, they're not really paying attention because the guys are just stalled. Or it looks like to them
they have a bad angle if they're live.
And all of a sudden, and then the commentators are also like, I don't know what it was. It could have been this. It looked like it was that. And we kind of leave it as that.
Right.
And everyone's like, well, I think it was. And then we have to wait hours.
Then you ask the competitors, you're like, what did you finish it with?
Right. So like there's no interview after the it's just like they raise their hand off the stage, next guy comes out. But if we could get it to the format where people are used to seeing like the UFC's format of like, oh, this guy won. Hey, how'd you feel? What did this go out?
So now
that changes the dynamic, and then you could have shorter. Like you have 15 fights as opposed to 30 fights because now you add all this other elements to kind of introduce the people.
Okay, so hold on. Let's. I know you probably just threw that out there, but let's say we get 15 fights.
Right.
We need 30 competitors. Okay, to make the fight to win model work, or probably any of them, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
We need all 30 of those competitors to put how many asses in seats so that it makes enough money.
But I don't know why you think that's a thing. Why is that an ass? Like the UFC is not bringing people. Oh, make sure you bring your family and friends. They're not doing that.
I mean, the UFC is a lot bigger, man.
I get it, but the UFC had to start somewhere. Everyone had to start somewhere, without having to rely on just the competitors bringing in the people.
But it's different because you can get jiu-jitsu at like a local Naga, any weekend of the like.
If Kyle Terra's on the card, is Kyle Terra bringing his family?
No, but Kyle's got a big enough name.
Exactly. So that's
what I was getting to. That's exactly what I was about to say.
If we don't interview these fighters, if after their match, if they had a great match, let's just put someone out there who has great. Mark Vives, right? Obviously, he's been on this podcast a number of times. He's been on Fight to Win a lot of times. After the match, it's like, okay, Vives won. Okay, see you later, and he's gone. No one, they don't interview him. Hey, what were you thinking? There's no build. There's no build up to him or his name other than just throwing him on the card every time or whomever name the guy. But Kyle Terra has a big name, obviously already.
Sure.
Lovato has a big name. Hinger has a big name. These guys are all big names because they're always in the spotlight. But now let's spotlight the people on that stage. Let's hold off, not just carry them off the stage. Let's do an interview with them. Kind of get their personality, where they're coming from. I like what Seth's doing at the end, where he does like a recap of a submission. I don't know how many views it gets. I watch them, but that's another good thing that kind of get people out there. But I think they do it more often, and maybe after the fight, and just kind of hear what the guys. It adds a little more personality to the person, as opposed to just raise their hand and they're off the stage. They go, and the next guy comes on, you totally forget about that last fight. Okay, that's all. I just think that format is nice. And you never know what they're going to say. Like, you got, what's his name from the UFC who says ridiculous things after his fight. And he gets like,
my balls was hot.
My balls was hot. And he gains
a million followers.
But you know what I'm saying?
I don't know that it would quite work that well in a fight to win. No offense, Seth.
But you know what I'm saying? Like that type of stuff, people all of a sudden gravitate towards. Like, oh, I like that guy because he says this, or I like that guy, or whatever the case may be. But you kind of get a little more personality, and it kind of makes him not just be like, oh, raise his hand, see you later.
Have you tried to get Seth on this show?
Oh, he's been on the show.
Oh, yes?
Oh, yeah.
You gotta get him back then. Ask him.
A couple of Fight to Wins ago. So yeah, we'll try to get him for maybe the next.
Yeah, we had the whole
card.
crew out here.
Yeah. Wow, nice.
That was fun. They're a great group, and they work so freaking hard, man. They work hard to put on these events, and props to them. I mean, it's hard because they have a small team to see probably every angle,
Yeah.
And I know outside looking in, it's easy for us to sit there and criticize this and that, and I'm not criticizing,
not knowing what it costs to do those things and whatnot.
Of course not, but I'm just voicing an opinion. I'm saying, hey, I like what you guys are doing. What about that? How about that? And just throwing ideas out there because you never know.
Right. The only so what I was getting at before is like it's pretty easy to fill a Fight to Win card or similar when you've got 30 competitors plus, or I'm sorry. What is it? 60 competitors because 30 matches.
Yeah.
Okay. And everyone's, encouraged to bring people. They're getting a portion of the ticket sales.
Yep.
Okay. So I don't know where the we need X number of people to make this profitable is. Like I don't know their money end of it at all, obviously.
Yeah.
But But if you cut down on that aspect, so we've gone from having 60 fighters, let's say, to having 30 fighters, but now they're all bigger name. Okay, so we're counting on that. So they're not going to bring mom and dad, they're not going to bring their cousins and whatnot, but hopefully their name is going to bring in all the jiu-jitsu dorks that were going to show up anyhow. Okay, so that's the only concern. Like, I feel like if you
But
were
mom
like,
and dad aren't going to start taking jujitsu. And that's where it kind of gets kind of weird.
We're not
for me.
trying to.
It's like,
We're not necessarily trying to sell. Okay, maybe
ass
we
and
are.
seats,
Right.
but we're
Yeah.
trying to sell jujitsu and trying to build a fan base. So build up
two
those
things,
guys.
But the two things can build simultaneously, because mom and dad could get interested enough to want to tune in if it's interesting, even if they're not going to take classes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the thing. Like we're selling. We're selling multiple things there. One's the product and the presentation, of course, and the other is potentially, go out, learn to grapple.
Right.
Okay. Only a certain number of people who are there to support their friend/family are gonna do either of those things. But if you're doing both, I feel like if you're casting the wider net, you're gonna catch more fish type thing. But now here's the thing. Sorry, getting back, rewinding again here. So if we get all super fights with all big names, which is probably a harder show to put together, especially as we're getting guys that have big names but are also contracted to only fight in certain organizations.
That's true. That's very
okay,
true.
so there's an issue that we got to run into right away. But let's ignore that for a minute. One, all big names means those guys want more money. Okay, so we need to have more money, and we damn well need to make more money. And we tried that one time, and it went over, and it was called Metamoris.
I know.
So you got
That was just ran poorly. Of
right.
course,
I like maybe Seth
But
or
the
somebody
event-
else would do it
the
better.
event was
better
amazing.
or correct. Well, yeah, but that's
Production, everything like that. Metamoris was
bankruptcy levels of production.
Yes.
Yeah, no. but no,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
right.
so we have that as a. This is what we tried, and it failed miserably for whatever reasons. Like it looked beautiful, and everyone loved it, but.
Right.
And then here's a successful model. You're trying to do what they did over here at Metamoris, basically, where it's all super fights, okay? But you're hoping it succeeds like Fight to Win. And I don't know where in that formula each element needs to be that it actually...
Either do I. But I think that building these local guys up is important. Like,
Right.
okay,
No, I
obviously-
like your idea of the interviews personally, although obviously
too.
not everyone's comfortable with that, especially after you just had, say, an exhausting 10-minute match. You don't necessarily want to get on the stick and talk.
Well,
yeah,
it's not about. I mean, you know how it. You know what I mean. Like a quick little thing, like what Rogan does or what everyone does at the end of any fight. Even they do it at EBI as well.
Right.
But they do it at the end, right?
well, yeah,
They do it every match. At
No,
EBI?
not every
just at the
match.
end, right?
Yeah,
They just bring it out the winner. But I think that if you're going to build up local talent, just throwing them on a card, they do need a little something more. I think they just need a little bit more, and throwing out posters is all good, but it's just a flat image. You really just look. Okay, there's Vivez. Okay, there's whomever, and I just think that giving them a little bit more. That's all.
I think it's a good idea because chances are you'll run into a few of those guys who've got a lot of charisma.
Yeah.
Not everyone will.
No,
but a
not
few of the guys
everyone.
will.
And then that's how you start building stars. You build a Conor McGregor. I'm just saying, just hearing them talk and hearing how with their, and people gravitate towards it. Oh, wow. And you don't even know who you have unless you let them talk. Yeah, they can do great jujitsu, but they might be, like you said, charismatic person too. And now
Goes
people
a
are like,
long way.
they're my guy. I like that guy. I like what he stands for, this and that, And then in Chicago, we've got so many gyms and so many gym owners and so many black belts that probably haven't even competed yet or probably want to compete, but there's so many like purples that want to get out there and browns that want to get out there.
But we could talk to Missy. I think it's the opposite effect.
Think so?
Actually,
Think more purple show up.
I
than
think
black
there's
belts?
way more people at the lower ranks that want to get out there and show their stuff and really get after it.
Yeah.
And and I can't speculate why, but I for sure have seen Missy struggle to find opponents for higher rank guys way more than it's like, oh yeah, no, we've got
where they have to fly people in to fight them.
Right, exactly that. Where it's like, we've got, and again, there's a bigger pool of purple belts, obviously, than there is of black belts. There's way less of them than there are purple belts. But I think
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't. I just like to Me, I just don't like all that time sitting there. I love jujitsu, but it's like I want to see those high level black belt matches. I do. I enjoy them because I know what. I'm
you
a
can
purple
catch the
belt.
replay the next day. I mean,
I'm a purple belt, and I enjoy watching purple belts fight. I enjoy fighting myself, but when I roll with a black belt, I'm like, God damn, that's like I just feel. I appreciate so much more getting my ass kicked by a black belt.
That's what we'll do. There's the solution, Zito. That's the solution. All right, fight to win, new model, the Anthony Zito method. We're only going to do 15 matches. Okay, it'll be black belt versus purple belt every match, so that we can appreciate the ass kicking.
But that's why when I see two black belts go at it, I really appreciate. Like I can really dig in and say, okay, now I want to see how this is going to go.
Right. And sometimes that produces a great match, and sometimes that produces
sometimes not so much. Right.
A lot of nullification.
Right.
Yeah.
But
and the purple
that,
belts are ready to go at it. Like they're throwing everything.
Yeah, they're scrapping.
And that's why,
more...
like, I can't stress enough. Like, I don't want the purple belts off the card because they usually bring the fire.
They go for it.
They go for it.
And a lot of brown and black belts do too. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm being fair,
and the kids go at it too.
Oh God, the kids get after it so bad.
Those two girls, right?
That was the match of the night for sure.
It was.
They were
I
awesome.
agree.
Yeah, I mean, I got friends on that card that I know well, and I'm like, yeah, no, your match is terrible compared to those little kids.
That was intense, boy. Intense.
It's so impressive.
Girls had no chill whatsoever. But yeah.
But I think, like you have ADCC trials, and those trials are a big deal, and people watch them. I think that,
Well, now that we can.
Yeah. But I think that, doing purples and browns and, and do trials, like fight to win trials and to get them on the card. And, it's kind of like I like to, how do I put this? Obviously, everyone who does jujitsu, they like to set it levels of like, I want to accomplish this. I want to go there. I want to train for that. I want to
win this championship.
I want to get the build up, I want to be like, I want it to be like, to get on the fight to win card, you submit your application, but you kind of got to earn that spot, And at that black belt level,
I feel like it's getting there a bit, though.
You know what I'm saying?
Like obviously, God, how many fight to wins are we in now?
95.
Yeah, so like we're fast approaching 100 fight to wins. I feel like with the championship belts and whatnot, in the individual weight levels, and I feel like that's really a step to a much greater level of procedure. Like it's cool to be up on that stage and get paid to do your thing and everything, but I feel like but now that we've got like competitive championship belts,
those championship belts are still. I still don't. They're hazy right now because I don't know what's the. How do you get one and what's the other competitors in that division? Like there isn't really like, oh, this is the top 15. This is the top. You know what I mean? So I'm like, well, who are they fighting? Like who else is in line for that shot?
But
how do they get there?
We're still essentially collecting data for that.
Right.
So it's getting there. It's not maybe there yet.
How many people are probably in their, let's just quote unquote, roster of fight to win competitors? It's got to be.
Oh, competitors? I have no idea.
It's got to be thousands, right? I mean,
maybe.
Well, I don't know if it's thousands, but you got. I mean,
hundreds.
If there's 500 UFC fighters, right?
Sure.
There's got to be that or a little more for jiu-jitsu. If you're multiplying
your potential roster, you're talking.
I'm talking about the roster for fight to win. When you combine purple, brown, black, and the kids,
so
and all the states that they go to, it's got to be huge, math, right?
Okay, so it can't be that huge, okay, because there's roughly 30 matches per fight to win, and we've done almost 100 fight to wins at this point. Yeah. Okay, so the top level that could be would be 600 people, but it's way less than that because we have guys that have fought on multiple fight to wins. We've got guys that are traveling around the country to be on fight to wins. We've got guys in the fight to win crew that are being fit, like Troy and Seth and them that are doing fight to win matches either because they need to fill in or which again, like if there was an infinite pool of talent that would never happen, or because they want to do a match. But yeah, like look, Seth and Shoney hooked up. Like that wasn't because Seth wanted to have a match with Shoney. That was because the guy that Shoney was supposed to face off against, I think, pulled out last minute, and they couldn't get a replacement. Yeah. And Seth's like, well, either we're not putting Shoney on the card after like a lot of people want to show up and see Shoney do a grappling match, or I'll do it.
Yeah.
That was fun to watch.
Yeah,
that
it
was
was an interesting match.
I mean,
Shoney, I ain't gonna lie. You wanna grapple with slightly more clothing on next
more
time.
clothing for sure. Kids watch this.
Can't say anything after the Gordon Mendoza thing, though. I mean, come on.
What is that? What I know.
The
The strip.
the striptease.
Yeah.
that was-
Sorry.
That was funny at first, but after a while, it got kind of old.
Everyone basically says that it went just a hair too long.
Yeah.
It got a little uncomfortable after a while.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I can see a couple minutes, and then it was like, okay, what are we doing here? Is this
We're doing a full routine. That's what we're doing.
Routine? Okay, all right. Is this all
Earn that money.
choreographed? Okay,
But yeah, so like I said, upper limit
So
is probably
600, probably
around
around-
600,
okay, so-
but it's obviously less because of repeats.
but there are
spe-
weight classes, right, for fight to win.
Yeah. I mean,
Same as
well,
IBJJF, right?
oh
Do they
shit, I
follow,
don't
do they
even.
follow the same weight class?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
You've been a competitor. You tell me.
Yeah, I think so. I think I was.
Yeah, no, I think they're-
140.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
way
I think they're on the like
Probably.
125, 135,
Yeah.
140. I think it goes like that more. So again, like
Maybe, yeah,
it may
maybe.
follow the UFC weight classes more.
That's
so
what I say.
than
If it
IBJJF.
does, then they should probably put something together that's.
Damn, I feel like I should know that. But there's probably a bunch of our fans screaming
Right.
at us, like, yeah, these morons, I know this. Why don't they have me on? I could be young Jamie.
Yes.
You need the young Jamie equivalent.
But anyway, so enough of that. But,
Yeah, that was a wild tangent there. Sorry.
But it was just on. And I just like, oh man, I did not want to fall asleep. And I obviously I didn't pull it up today to watch it and see who won. But I know I've seen Hinger fight Lovato at the Master Worlds.
Right. So I was told Hinger and Lovato went to the decision. I know Lovato got the decision.
nod? Okay.
I was told Barrett Yoshida got a submission win. I didn't see it, and I don't know what it is. So that's one of those ones that I want to look up. And above and beyond that, I hadn't really heard or seen much of anything else. And then I caught some UFC highlights last night / this morning. But
What happened in the UFC?
not Dos Anjos, Jesus, Dos Santos TKO'd Tuvia in round 2, and it was one of those real moments where it's like, damn, because gets him on his back, full mount, Raymond punches down, and the solution from the bottom was hammer fists up into the air. You're like, and I was like, oh God.
Where do they learn that from?
Well, I mean, I'd say mostly that's guys that getting put on their back that aren't used to be putting on their back. Like that doesn't happen too much at the lower weights.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just not exclusive to heavyweight because we've seen that amongst like middleweights and whatnot too.
That's just a
occasionally,
weird
but-
way of like you're a trained fighter. You're on your back. You're mounted, right? Yeah, he was mounted.
Yeah, no,
and
like-
you're
like
trying
just
to punch
classic
from
mounts
the,
situation.
from the bottom. Like no way does that ever we're gonna work out for you.
Pretty much never has worked out for anyone.
So I don't know how is a trained fighter doing that. Like is that just instinct?
I'd say that's a trained fighter who hasn't spent enough time on the ground, specifically
Yeah.
in bottom position.
Right.
Or if they have, they haven't been in like a serious mount with people really raining it down on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like even in this day and age, it's easily possible for guys to get to a very high level in the UFC in competitive MMA and have massive holes in their game.
Yeah.
And he's a knockout artist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's unfortunate, man. Jeez. It's rough. Any MMA for you, Jim?
No,
No.
no striking.
It's okay.
he likes his-
Never trained at all in striking, and I don't want to get punched in the face.
No, it sucks.
really.
Yeah, I don't like
I mean, to be fair, I don't like getting punched in the face. Like I'm not one of those guys who like takes a nice clean shot, smiles, and goes in harder. Like
Yeah.
that's not really me. But getting punched in the face does not hurt anywhere near as much as you think it does. But there are other things that hurt a hell of a lot more than you might imagine. Like leg kicks, for example,
Yeah.
do actually hurt quite a bit more
Yeah.
than getting punched in the face oftentimes does.
I mean, I did Jeet Kune Do throughout the 90s, and, my biggest thing was, developing my parry, if you know what that is. So parrying punches, exactly. So I would never get hit in the face. So I really was very efficient at not getting hit because I did not like to get hit. So, and I even when we put the helmet on, like we'd spar with helmets, like these giant like motorcycle helmets. That was a thing.
I feel like that makes it even worse sometimes, though.
It sucked. I'm like, I don't want to put that helmet on. Like your head gets bobbled around.
Yeah.
You can't really see. You have no peripheral vision. These punches just coming at you. The screen was like all scratched up.
You had the plastic eye cover one? Okay. So you could practice the finger.
eye,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, because they would do eyes.
That sucks even more then.
It sucked because you couldn't see out of it. You know, this plastic was all scratched up, and I'm just getting knocked around, kicked on the ground. It just, I was little. It
sounds like Jedi training.
Yeah, it was. It was horrible. It was horrible. But you know, what are you gonna do? It was the '90s. We didn't know anything back then.
That's the excuse.
I think so. That's what I'm going with.
You know, it's funny. I was just talking to this with a couple of the guys at 10th Planet actually, but Juliana Pena, UFC fighter, LCCT blue belt. You know, I train with her semi regularly.
Yeah.
She's up in Spokane again, and I'd have to look up the specifics, mind you. But I think she got invited to do like a combatives training, either on a military base up there or at a facility. Regardless, so she posted a video of this. She's all kitted up. She's wearing like the flak jacket. She's got a simulated rifle. She's got a pistol. She's wearing like just your classic military gear, not a backpack, but like everything else is what you'd be wearing in an actual combat situation. And it's like, okay, grapple. And
how you gonna do that?
Well, that's just it. Like, and she this is a UFC fighter. This is a trained jiu-jitsu practitioner, and she's like, oh my god, it's so different. And sure enough, like she posted the videos on her Instagram, so you can see this. Like, she goes to wrestle with the guy. He reaches over, gets like an overhook, grabs her gun, pulls it out. The whole holster came off, but like he pulls the gun out, pulls it out of the holster, shoots her in the head. You know,
wow,
yeah. There's a point, I think, in that little exchange where like one of the guys just walks by, and I had the sound off, so I can only imagine that this is what he said, but I'm pretty sure he walks by, drops a training knife, yells knife, and they both like go for it. And the guy on bottom actually ends up getting it and like just shanks her like 6 times right in the gut. And she's like, you know, like, oh my God, if this was real, I'd be dead.
Right.
You know, like because again, your training priorities are different, whether it's, you know, sport jiu-jitsu or MMA or, you know, real.
But how was her reaction timing to all that?
Oh, I mean, like she was getting after it. Like as soon as she got,
she didn't panic.
No. Well, no, she didn't. I think there's a shock knife, so there's a little bit of a taser effect to let you know that you actually are getting stabbed. But yeah, she wasn't like, you know.
What I'm saying is, you're doing a combatives training. She's a trained fighter. Mm-hmm. You know, she's been in high pressure situations. You know, been on television. Been in real fights.
Like when the guy puts the gun into her face to say that he's about to shoot her. Right. Obviously, there's no bullets or blanks at close range. You don't want anything like that. But you know, like she immediately like covers it and
right.
But like there was definitely that moment where she's like, oh, I'd be dead.
Right.
You know, even though she reacted well to it, you know, it's like, oh, gun, damn, put it down, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so.
But where someone who doesn't
who had
train,
no training,
right,
yeah, no, probably just die.
Just die, right. They're not going to put up much of a fight. They're not going to they're just going to really just
But I think
it
it was a real interesting, eye-opening experience for her, you know, because you know, she's, again, you know, a absolute top tier competitor. Right. You know, in the highest rankings in the top MMA organization, has never been in that kind of situation, or at least I hope that. You know, like I guess I could ask her like, hey, you ever almost been shanked in a back alley up in Spokane? But you know, and that was a real eye opener as to, you know, like where your priorities need to be for the situation. Mm-hmm.
Is she doing this training for a specific reason, or she just wanted to do it?
I don't know whether it was just like, hey, we want to invite you out and do this. Whether because she does some other non-UFC stuff as well. I think she does like the commentator position for an organization as well. So I don't know how the arrangements was made, whether it's somebody she knows and wanted to give it a try. Her husband also is a police officer, so there may have been that element as well. Mm. So yeah, there could be a number of factors. I'd have to talk to her, or you know, I don't think she posted the whys of it. But yeah, like I said, just a real interesting, eye-opening experience for her. context matters.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's those type of like seminars. I'm still on the fence about all those type of seminars. Not like I'm going to seminars like when people do like combatives training or knife thing, and it's like your first seminar, and you're going to like learn how to defend yourself. You know, everyone sees them like learn how to defend yourself, and I'm gonna teach you this, and it's an all women seminar or whatever seminar.
It definitely wasn't that kind of seminar.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
but I'm on the fence on seminars like that. I don't know if it's beneficial, if it's just a waste of money, or I don't know. I don't know how to pull stuff
hold
out
on.
of it.
I just want to make sure that we're framing this right. So you're talking
I'm talking about just regular seminars.
like
protect yourself against an attacker.
Yeah,
exactly.
like going from zero to
Right, exactly.
having something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm being fair, and I granted don't teach those kind of seminars, so hopefully this doesn't come off the wrong way. But I don't feel like most of the time people are going to walk away with much, except maybe more confidence than they should.
I was going to say maybe a false sense of hope.
Yeah, like false security.
Yeah. I agree.
But it would be my sincere hope that like those seminars are being used to give people like I don't want anyone to go to a seminar on self-defense and be like, oh, I learned 3 things and now I'm good for the rest of my life. I would hope that when people go to those seminars that they're being told like, here's a couple of things that you could do, here's some awareness and whatnot, but like if you want to make this an actual useful skill, you need to do more. Like I would hope they're being sold on that to learn an art.
As long as they're being sold on, hey, come to my classes.
Right.
Basically. Like, I'm going to show you what I teach. Like kind of like a demonstration, right?
Right.
I'm going to demo what I teach, and then I want you to come. But in no way, by me demoing this to you, are you going to be able to do this in a real situation.
Right. No,
long as that's like that's the narrative out right off the bat. Listen, this is a demonstration. I'll answer your questions. I'm going to show you how to do this.
Right. Get a taste of it firsthand.
You need to sign up. You need to train this for the next 10 years. You know, something to that effect.
Okay, you've gone too far. You calm down. Okay.
I mean, that's true, but don't tell
after
them
they
that
sign
part.
up, you tell them it takes 10 years, not before.
and then you'll feel pretty confident, and maybe you'll be able to do this in the street. I mean, in a real situation.
Right. No.
But in no way is it me showing you a wrist lock. Are you going to go on and do this to someone?
You know, there's a huge difference between like the huckstery, the only move you need to know in a self-defense seminar. I could teach it to you in 35 minutes. You know, like, yeah, that's definitely not the kind of seminar I would ever want to go to or want to run.
But they do exist.
Right? No,
they do exist.
They do exist. I see them in the corporate world more than I see them, you know, in
team
like,
building stuff.
Yeah, where it's like, let's bring in a self-defense guy for team building exercises.
So ridiculous.
But again, even those guys, I think, are really like, God, I'm speaking from a point of ignorance here because, like I said, I don't go to those type of seminars. Yeah. Like those guys got to be trying to like sell whatever their jujitsu, their Krav Maga,
their DVD or something, right?
Whatever it is, they got to be trying to sell something to make it worth their while, and also so that it's not like, okay, well, I taught her how to hold her keys in her hand and punch something,
right?
You know, like,
right.
Yeah, and that's all she needs. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel confident being able to do that.
But I have seen people post like bullshido techniques on Facebook, like criticizing, like, this is the worst women's self-defense technique I've ever seen. How are they teaching this? So unfortunately, that does happen too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't know how to get around that because a lot of times that's people that don't know anything, counting on the other person being a legitimate expert and not even knowing how to confirm that.
I know.
So
it's sad.
However, speaking on a different topic, you do seminars on yoga. Correct.
It's true. Yep. Yoga, and what I've been doing the last couple of years now, I'm really getting into is specifically yoga for grapplers.
Right. Now that fascinates me, and I want to hear more.
Good.
Yeah, let's hear about this because
I think, first of all, I want to say that I'm not trying to say that yoga is going to make you better at jiu-jitsu. I think you get better at jiu-jitsu or any kind of grappling by doing more jiu-jitsu, right? What I do feel, though, is that a yoga practice addressed in a certain way can help you train more, help you stay healthy to train more. Right. I know, and like I said, I'm 47 now. Man, I need a yoga practice in between the days I train hard to kind of put myself back together. I love training jiu-jitsu. I have so much fun. but man, it takes a toll on your body, especially as you get older, you know. So I feel like my yoga practice puts me back together, so the following day I can go at it again. I only train usually 3 days a week hard jiu-jitsu, but there's a lot of sparring in it, you know. And even on those days when I train jiu-jitsu, I still have little yoga practices before and after training to help counter the negative effects that you get from jiu-jitsu. So yeah, that's what I want to do is I want to share just some simple techniques because I really hoped at first that people from jiu-jitsu would come to my yoga classes all the time. But it's not going to happen because they pay their membership at the academy. They want to train jiu-jitsu, so asking them to come to a yoga class for an hour and a half, in addition to that, probably isn't going to happen, you know. Right. I do it because it's my job. I've been teaching yoga now for 17 years. So it's my job, and I like doing it, and I have to keep doing it. But I realize most people who train hard in grappling won't have that time, maybe once a week or so. So what I've tried to do is put together shorter sequences that you can easily fit into your training schedule. A little yoga before jiu-jitsu, a little yoga after, and a little yoga later on in the day. You know, 15 minutes here and there adds up for sure to help keep you healthy and on the mat.
Right, combination of like an active recovery and a preventative maintenance.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
So let me touch on that for a little bit there. So when you're talking like before and after, like what's the difference there in terms of what you want to do? Because I know like some people kind of advocate like let's stretch beforehand and get loosened up and whatnot, and other people are like no, that's actually really dangerous. So where on that spectrum do you fall in like the pre jiu-jitsu? I
think that first of all, let me say I think stretching a cold muscle is not a good idea. Okay. And I should say passive stretching of a cold muscle is not a good idea. Passive stretching isn't that effective usually unless you hold it for a long time. And if you do too much passive stretching, it can turn muscles off where they don't fire as well.
What do you mean by
It's kind of like relaxing into a stretch, like just holding a stretch for a long period of time.
So like getting into, say, butterfly or like a splits or something like that. And just
so that's a good example. If I go into the academy and just try to do splits, especially I go at 6:30 in the morning, so that's going to be really hard.
cold splits.
Yeah, cold splits. And just holding that and trying to hang out there for a long time before you've done anything else isn't a great idea. Okay. A better idea is to go through, like what most academies do, go through ranges of motion a number of times, go through full ranges of motion actively and with many repetitions is a better way, especially at the before a training session.
So more of a warm-up style.
More of a warm-up going through full ranges of motion with control. There's something I've been talking about a lot lately is the difference between mobility and flexibility. Flexibility is going through an end range of motion passively. So me, it's kind of hanging out with my arms straight. Whereas mobility is the ability to go through a range of motion with control, which implies you have an element of strength involved. So it's important to keep in mind that flexibility is a component of mobility, but if you're just relying on flexibility, you may lack the strength, and oftentimes core strength, to go through ranges of motion with control. And if someone is only flexible or too flexible, they're more likely to injure themselves, as opposed to the person that works with mobility. That way their joint has more stability in it. So, before training, going through ranges of motion, like, and a lot of things most jiu-jitsu schools do make a lot of sense. Bridging, doing hip escapes, doing triangles, doing, active movements that you're probably going to do during the training session.
Right. Yeah. I love a very sport-specific warm-up. I've probably ragged on this a bajillion times, but I'm not a fan of let's warm up by running in a circle or doing jumping jacks or things like that relatively. Obviously, if you just need to get a little bit of blood pumping, running in a circle is not too bad. But yeah, I love a lot of the specialized exercises that are sport specific.
Yeah, makes sense. The kind of functional movement type stuff, especially for that sport. So I think that stuff is great. I think what can be added to it is a little more breath control, a little more breath awareness. Okay. In a lot of ways, and not everyone teaches this way, but in a lot of ways, the conscious use of your breath or controlling the breath is what makes yoga yoga. It's kind of becoming almost a lost art that people don't pay attention to, but it's really what makes yoga different than a lot of other physical activities. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you guys that, controlling the breath in jiu-jitsu is pretty important too. It helps. It can help a lot. Everyone thinks of like the Hickson Gracie, documentary when he works a lot on breathing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things he do is right out of the classical yogic texts. The things with his abdomen, the rapid breathing. So I think incorporating some breathing during those warm-ups would be helpful to get the practitioners into healthier breathing habits and just awareness that your breathing can affect your energy levels for sure. When you slow down your breath, you're going to calm yourself down. If you need to speed it up a little bit to get more energy, that's available for you too. So yeah, I think a lot of the jump mobility things that people do before training is good. A little bit in the warm-up, but for sure more in the end, a little more attention to getting your body out of flexion. Your hips out of flexion is a good idea because we're hunched over a lot, our knees in toward our chest a lot when we train, right? And then after you're done training, you sit in a car and drive home. Then after that, you go sit in an office, and you're always in this flexion, this position where your knees and thighs are getting closer to your chest.
As I'm sitting here in my chair with my knee up to my chest here.
Enough of that causes a lot of back pain. It contributes a big time to back pain. So in the post-training sessions, I like to focus a little bit more on getting ourselves out of that position. So just, for example, lying flat on your belly. So you're not, your spine and your hips aren't in flexion anymore. You're moving toward more extension. You're keeping your spine longer.
Okay.
And then focusing on strengthening areas that get overstretched when we do jiu-jitsu. Mostly glutes really. Because we're in flexion all the time, the opposite muscles, the hip flexors, are engaged a lot.
Right, especially guard play.
Yeah,
right?
especially. And then and if you're passing guard, then you're asking yourself to be in flexion, then really quickly get out of flexion by extending a leg back.
Right.
Which, if you do it hard, if you do it strong enough, it'll work. But that's really pulling on your spine because, like I said, your hip flexors, the fronts of the hips, are getting really tight because we're in that position and we're kind of tense when we're doing it. So after training, I want to focus a lot more on getting our hips out of flexion and strengthening the muscles that have been overstretched, mostly your glutes here. But then also in the post training, a little more passive stretching than before. So not quite as active because chances are you're kind of tired anyway. You don't feel like doing any more active things. So a little more passive stretching afterward to get our spine kind of back to neutral and to help prevent any especially low back and hip pain that come later on in the day or in the nighttime, depending when you train.
Have you ever seen those stretching like devices? I've recently when I was doing my physical therapy, they have these like not a machine. It's just kind of like a piece of metal with some pads on it that allows you to do stretching.
Oh, like the splits machine type thing, or something different?
No, it's something different. They're stationary, so you kind of like one wasn't stationary, but the other one was stationary, where you'd sit on it and have these handles in front, and then it allowed you to dip back, right? So you'd sit back and you'd hold on to the handles as it stretched your lower back. Then you'd switch your leg. You'd put one leg over the other, like cross, and then dip back again and stretch a different part of that leg. It was interesting. I've never seen those machines other than this at this Rosemont Health fitness place that I was getting physical therapy done at. They were neat. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I just didn't know how that because I've never done yoga, but I've seen yoga. I understand. I just wonder like how a machine like that or something like that tool can be utilized or can it not be utilized to help with load. Because I don't know if I can stretch as I can't touch my toes. I mean, I'm not sure if I could do all that stuff. I know it takes time, but like you said, I train a lot and I don't have another hour to take a yoga class to do it. So how can I get there quicker? Right. That's the key. And feel
more
better.
efficiently.
More efficiently. Thank you. But like my lower back, it comes and goes. It's like it feels great one day. I'm like, fuck, I feel great, and all of a sudden it hits me like, what happened to my lower back? And now it sucks for a week or two.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know what I did to do it because I don't do anything.
Well, it sounds like you
differently.
probably passed guard too explosively.
Right.
maybe.
But I just I just wish I had okay, I just need to stretch it more. I don't know why these come and go. It's like a wave. It's like some days it feels great, other days I'm like, what the hell did I just do? Did I sleep weird or?
Yeah.
So I don't know how to get that. And I know it's probably age as well has a factor, but you've never seen these machines. There's nothing that yoga utilizes like a machine like that.
Not so much, no.
Right?
No. Something you said was interesting and I think it's really common that when people in general, but including jiu-jitsu practitioners, when they have pain, they feel like they should stretch it out. Mm-hmm. When a lot of times they're doing themselves more harm than good. So, a lot of times when you feel pain in a certain area, it's not because those muscles are tight. It's because they're getting pulled onto their limit. An example is your lower back. A lot of people, I see it happen all the time. People have low back pain, so they feel like they should touch their toes and stretch it out a little bit. When in reality, they're feeling that pain maybe because the muscles in their back are to their limit, getting pulled on, and they're gripping because they think they're gonna tear. And then we try to stretch it more.
That's what creates the tightness, is almost like a defensive reaction.
Right, exactly. That, as well as, of course, in your spine, because we're in flexion so much and our lower back is rounding the opposite way it should, it's compressing on the discs. So that's more serious, obviously. But a lot of times the muscles that you feel pain from or discomfort from need to be actually strengthened, not stretched. And that's one thing I'm trying to tell the people who I train with, and it's slowly but surely catching on.
So when you say strengthen, is that through yoga you can strengthen them?
Well, sure. There's
or is it weight exercises?
There's thousands of yoga poses, and there's all kinds of yoga poses and movements you can choose from. So there's for sure yoga poses that will strengthen your back.
Really?
Really simple physical therapy exercises that are taken from yoga, and a lot of times. I think they call it Superman, when you lay on your belly and just lift your legs, lift your arms, lift your head. That's called locust in yoga.
Okay.
It's a pretty old yoga pose. Mm-hmm. That's one of the best ones. You should do it every day. About 100 times you should do it every day.
Really?
Yeah.
100 times a day?
Well, I mean,
not all at once necessarily, but
yeah, not all at once.
So when you say that pose, so I understand you. So you're laying on your stomach.
Yep.
And your arms go out in there, and your legs come back, and you're kind of like doing like a scorpion, right? Like a reverse scorpion. Like when you get scorpion.
You look very much like Superman flying, only you're laying on the ground.
Yeah, lying on your belly, lift your arms and legs and head.
And you just do reps of it, up and down, up and down. You don't just hold.
You can do both, but I would do reps. What I usually do is I do 10 reps, then I hold it for a while for 10 breaths.
Like a plank hold it?
Kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hold, stay up.
Right.
But you need to do it. Or that's just one example, of course. Doing simple bridges like you probably do in your warm-ups, super helpful too. Mm-hmm. On your back, knees bent, just press your hips up, bring them back down. Do it slower though, because in the warm-up stuff, you probably do them quickly. Do it nice and slow. But and 3 times a day, do 50. And you need to do repetitions, and not just once a day. You need to do, because chances are, like I said, you train and you're in this position, then you go sit in the car for a while, then you sit in your desk for also. But in this position, this seated position, flexion a lot during our day.
Right.
So you need to take breaks in your day to get yourself out of that position. Do some Supermans, do some bridges, stretch your hamstrings on your back. Sitting and if you have tight hamstrings and you sit and stretch the hamstrings, chances are you're compressing your discs and you're making your back worse. So lying on your back, you can grab your belt. I'll show that later. You can grab your belt, press your foot up in the air, get a hamstring stretch with your back flat. Way more beneficial.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think almost obviously like the toe touch style hamstring stretch I've done, but most of the hamstring stretches I've been shown have always been like in a seated posture.
Mm-hmm. At a point when you've got some mobility and flexibility to do that, it's okay. But there's a certain threshold that you need to cross first. Otherwise, it's maybe doing more harm than good.
Right. So you're talking Spacek showed me that at a tournament. We were at a tournament, and I was feeling like, and he showed me the belt around my foot, and he was showing me how to do those exercises to help me stretch that out. Yeah. So okay, that makes sense. Wow.
So now let me just kind of jump in here. Let's say you're running like your ideal class, like for jiu-jitsu context.
You mean like yoga for jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. Well, no, like let's say like you're in charge. We've got your program here. You're going to be the jiu-jitsu coach. You're going to be the yoga coach. Everything. How would you partition it out ideally in terms of here's maybe not the specific exercises, but here's the amount of time that we would spend pre-jiu-jitsu. Then here's our core jiu-jitsu workout, presumably with our technique and our rolling all in the center there. And then here's your cool down, your post-workout regimen. How would you tend to put that in? You know, like is it 10 minutes beforehand? Is it 15 minutes?
How long do I have total?
How much do you need? Like, what's your ideal setup here? This is all hypothetical here. I might steal this, mind you, but
That's totally okay. I would say this: 15 minutes prior to training.
okay.
Then all your training, including more specific warm-ups, drilling, rolling. Then 15 minutes after.
Okay.
15 minutes on each end.
So yeah,
You can
that's
get a lot done in that time.
So that's not. It's not like you're like, oh, we need like a half hour here. We need half hour there. You know. So yeah, that's actually a pretty small demand of time.
Again, it depends. I think if we have an hour and a half, that is
right.
If you got an hour,
If we have an hour, then 5 and 5.
5 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, like I said, people are there for jiu-jitsu. They get better because they're doing jiu-jitsu. But
Right.
five like focused minutes on either end.
But it's good because
make a
the
difference.
only way they're going to keep doing jujitsu is
Right.
to not
You
to prevent injuries.
If I'm going to be really honest, so I have a very eclectic martial arts background. And the thing that's crazy to me is, and I encountered this in judo, I encountered this in jiu-jitsu. I did not encounter this at all in sambo. Sambo's actually been consistently excellent about this. But like the number of guys that are just like, and I'm one of them, I want to stress this, that are just like, yeah, we're at class, we're going to get right into it, is like, you go to like a taekwondo school and they're like, yeah, we're gonna do a warm up. There's gonna be stretches so you can get those kicks super high. You know, like everything's very much like it's an integrated part of the curriculum that you have to do these certain exercises and warm ups and stretches and drills before and after. And I feel like, you know, like again, a lot of grappling styles are just like, yeah, no, get right to it, get on the grind.
Yeah, I mean, I would not attend a class like that. I need to stretch and stuff like that.
Right. Well, yeah, but like again, not counting like most gyms that I go to have some kind of warm up,
Right, yeah.
You know, to get the blood going, so
Yeah,
to speak, and that can you know vary from very sport specific exercises, which, as I said, I personally prefer that kind of warm up to, you know, like. Some sort of jogging, you know, like high knees.
I don't mind
like
the
that.
running. I don't mind the high knees, the push pulls. I enjoy those
If I'm
things.
putting it together, I tend to skip that kind of stuff in favor of, you know, doing other things. I don't mind a little bit of running just to get the blood pumping a little bit, but then like I personally want to get like I'd rather do shots down the mat than
you
do
would like
jogging down the mat, for example.
Right. But at Mineko's we do a routine. Basically, we do run and we do push pull. You know, we do hands over the head and high knees and all that stuff. And then we do, you know, our regular like shrimps down the mat or snakes, whatever you want to call it.
Man, somebody reminded me of the snaky movement the other day. They said something. I'm like, oh God, Joe Moriarty used to call them the snaky movements instead of shrimps or hip escapes.
Then we do back rolls, we do judo rolls, we do side break falls. You know, we'll do all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's all stuff I'm strongly in favor of. Like I
Right.
said, I like those
Right.
sport specific things the most. Like
Right. But I would like to incorporate
An actual
like
mobility and
at the end of class, I sometimes I will tell them, let's stretch out. I don't know any stretching other than what I do personally, you know? So so I just do what I feel feels good to me. I'm like, when I'm done working out, this is what I do. So I'll just have the class do that sometimes, but I would like it to be on a
have an actual, and that's what I'm saying. Like
curriculum saying, okay, this is what we do at the end of class, and this everyone just does it.
In my experience of more air quotes traditional martial arts, a lot of times there is that sort of mobility stretching beforehand, even before you've done any technique at all. Like, let's get a little warmed up, let's do a little bit of stretching and whatnot, and then after you've done that all, you bow out only after you've done your stretching out as well. Yeah. So yeah, like I've always found that to be a weird contrast in my personal experience between those styles. Most people get off the mat after they're done rolling. It's like, oh, I rolled my X number of rounds, and I'm gonna throw my clothes on or take a shower and just walk out the door.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it.
I'm one of those guys that does it too.
Yeah,
I rolled Saturday. I rolled, I don't know, hour and a half rolls, and after
And you're like,
done,
nope, gonna go shower, throw my clothes on, and go right in the car.
I take my spa shower, as the guys like to call it in my gym, spa shower.
Wait, why is it called the spa shower?
Because it's like super hot.
Oh, because you're the guy that's using up all the hot water.
First of all, Mineko has a giant hot water tank,
So it's okay.
So it's totally fine, and I really appreciate it. But I like hot shower. We have this guy in our gym. His name's John, and he's like Wim Hof.
No, cold showers then.
Fuck, like he's been. I think last time
got
he took a hot
to.
shower was like 3 years ago or something. Like he's in the shower like breathing, and I'm like, he's just a beast. And I'm like, I could have fucking roll against this guy. He's insane. I think he did this to my face. You see this here? All this here.
Well, listening audience can't see it, so describe that for us.
With his breathing, he did it?
He did this with I think it was either his beard hair or his gi across my face as he was going to north south. But anyway, it just ripped my. So, but he's like, so are you done with your spa shower? I'm like, no, I'm not done yet. I need to heat my body up. For some reason, I just like that heat. And is that wrong? Or should I be taking? I like when he does the ice baths. I'll jump in the ice bath. I feel great, but I enjoy a super heated shower.
Yeah, I haven't bought into the cold shower thing or the ice bath. So that's horrible. God, it's like painful. I don't. I think it'll be interesting to see long-term effects. Maybe he's already done, because I know Wim Hof, he's into like the getting evidence-based stuff. But
yeah, and there's some interesting science that I am not super well read on, mind you. Like Rogan talks about it, and some other people, Tim Ferriss. There's some science about both heat shock and cold shock proteins and things like that. So like, there's definitely some science
not from
being
showers. That's from like sauna.
Hot sauna.
Right.
Excuse me. Hot sauna
170 plus.
for the heat
Followed
shock
by the cold plunge.
Different timings, different intensities. So I'm not super well read on it, but there is definitely research being done that's showing that both extremes are beneficial. Like like the Russians traditionally, like you go into the sauna and you're in there for however long, and it's blazing hot, okay, and then you go into the snow right afterwards. That's like a pretty common tradition, and it turns out that actually is apparently quite good for you.
And what's interesting is that Vives was on our podcast. He was talking about a technique he uses for his hands, or he had an injury on one of his hands, and I actually do it to this day. I actually did it the other day when I hurt my thumb, where you would stick your hand in, like, I have a bowl of ice, stick my hand, and I have a blazing hot, bowl next to it, and I would stick my hand in the ice until I can't stand it anymore, basically. And then once it's done in the ice, I dump it in that hot water until I can't stand it hot water anymore. I keep going back and forth until they both become room temperature.
Right.
I
How
don't
long
know
does that take?
It's
a long time. Huh?
No, it doesn't take that long, actually, because of the hot and the cold. It maybe like 15, 20 minutes. You're good. I don't know if my hand
seems to work.
It seems, but it could be. It only be a 2 or 3 day injury. So I don't know if I did do it. Would it be longer? I don't know.
The proviso of possible bro science.
It's possible bro science.
But seems to work, but don't have the evidence.
Anything
anecdotally does seem to work,
Right.
but we don't have the double blind placebo or anything like that.
But you had a hand injury when you did it.
I had a hand injury,
and now you don't.
And now I don't.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it's doing
All
inside.
right, so here's what we'll do. I'm gonna snap both your thumbs.
Okay, great.
We'll put one in the cold and one in the hot thing, and we'll just leave the other one. We'll see how fast it heals on its own.
Exactly.
What could possibly go wrong?
That's the way to do it. I want to take my name out of the hat for that one.
I could see it for a specific body part and an injury, but I just wonder if you're doing like your whole body,
right,
in both of those extremes. I think it's. I don't know, and I think in some ways those kind of techniques help to toughen you up.
Right.
But then I wonder how much can we take? Like if you're doing super hard training and you're doing this thing, it makes you really uncomfortable, be really cold in the ice bath, right?
Yeah.
I wonder how much is too much,
Right.
Right. Yeah, don't need nobody getting hypothermia.
Well, I just watched a documentary about. It's weird that you said that, but it was James Ray, who's some type of
Is he an endurance athlete or
No,
something?
no. He was a speaker, like a Tony Robbins.
Oh, okay. And this is going in a wildly different direction.
In
than I
like
was
2000,
anticipating.
because it was on Netflix, and he was he brought people into the desert, an Arizona desert, and through to get his spiritual warrior like badge. I guess he had like this whole pyramid thing.
Okay, sure.
And to get now people paid $9,600 to go on the spiritual retreat with him in the Arizona desert, and he built this like
Sweat lodge type stuff?
Sweat lodge,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, I know the story.
Do you remember 2009?
Yep. And a couple people died, right?
3 people.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
people
I don't
died.
know the names at all here, but this is starting to sound familiar, yeah.
And 3 people died in this homemade sweat lodge in the desert that he, facilitated, and he was like there, and he did like 2 years in jail for it.
Well, because I think he wouldn't let them leave, right?
Well, the thing was that he
saying,
said,
don't leave.
Yeah, exactly. He was their leader, right? And he's like, no, stick it out, and you can do it, and no, she'll be fine. She's been here before, and then they end up dying,
right?
And people, and it's a fascinating documentary. But the guy is, I'm not a big fan of those. I think any type of those retreats or people who present themselves like, I have the answers for this, and you need to do this psychologically.
There's a lot of that in the yoga world.
Is there?
I imagine there is. I've seen a little bit of it just outside looking in, so I can only imagine what it's like on the inside.
Yeah, it gets very cultish, and it totally makes me think like, what's going on in your head? Like, if I want to teach someone jujitsu, I'm passionate about jujitsu. Drink the Kool-Aid of jujitsu, fine. But if I'm just talking, just to talk, and I read some books, I'm just regurgitating what I've read, and now you follow every word I say. I don't know. And I have no college education in that. You know what I mean? I have nothing to back me up other than I can sit there and read books, and then.
I don't know. It sounds like this is actually an excellent career path. I'm going to look into this as soon as we hang up here.
But anyway, so the guy's now out of jail, and I guess he's trying to like get back into the whole.
That's got to be a rough one.
Inspirational speaking, but
now you be like, yeah, no, I did 2 years time, hard time, and this is what I learned.
Yeah,
that's what he does.
Jesus Christ,
that's exactly what he does, and it's bizarre. Like his arrogance is, I'm like, dude,
he meditated on it for 2 years.
Right. Had a lot of time to think.
It's incredible. Like, maybe you should just go wait tables somewhere now and not try to like inspire people.
I don't know. I guess if people are willing to pay for it, what can you do?
Yeah, that's
that guy's obviously willing to sell it.
So speaking of like heat, like hot yoga is a thing, like extreme hot yoga.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I'll say I think it's not a good idea for jiu-jitsu practitioners, for grapplers. I think we sweat enough.
Okay.
I know I sweat enough. Especially on good days with the gi, I spend the whole rest of the day trying to rehydrate. Mm-hmm. So I think that a little sweating's fine when we do yoga, but again, at some point, when is enough? Like, some hot yoga studios have it 108 degrees. Some have it more like 90. Is 120 better? I think it's a little bit of a gimmick. Mm-hmm. Because people walk into a room, they start sweating, and they think, "Oh, this must be working. I'm sweating already."
Right, working so hard.
Yeah, and sure, like things soften up a little bit. You're a little more pliable. You can maybe bend a little bit further. But I don't think. I think it's less productive than an intelligent yoga sequence that is in a room temperature room.
So is that almost like because it's so hot in there and you're more pliable, it's almost like a false sense of hope that you can actually stretch that much?
A little bit. And some people go beyond their normal, a lot of people go beyond their normal range of motion, which could actually cause injury.
Right. See, I've actually experienced that because I've done like a sauna session and then been like, I feel so loose and everything. Mm-hmm. And then stretched out and been like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why we do the warm up to get the body temperature up and get like this feels really effective. But yeah, I never actually considered that could potentially be injurious.
It can be, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people who claim they've got great benefits from hot yoga, and I'm not saying that they're wrong. I don't think it's for everyone, mm-hmm. and I don't think. I think it has for sure its drawbacks. It's not my thing. Like I said, I sweat enough at jiu-jitsu. I think a little sweating during yoga is good, but also at the same time, I want to feel what's going on inside my body more So sometimes a little stiffness at the beginning is okay. I think is a good thing. And I think you'll learn how to go through ranges of motion better when you feel more. Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of it.
I've watched some yoga videos like on YouTube, and because I was, people say you should do it, and they say stuff like breathe to that part of your body.
Yeah.
What? I don't understand what that exactly means.
Are you saying it sounds a little woo woo?
A little
woo.
A little woo.
Yeah, there can be a lot of woo woo in yoga. What I think they mean is bring awareness to that part of your body and breathe. Where the way they word it, the way people word it sometimes gives an idea that you can breathe into your hip, or you can, you're breathing into your lungs.
Right.
That's where you're breathing.
Right, exactly.
But like I said, what I think they mean, and if I were to say something similar to that, I would try word it a little differently, but I would say bring awareness to your hip, take some deep breaths. Because that bringing your awareness to different parts of your body will actually, can actually create more circulation there. If nothing else, you're more aware of it. Because, one thing that you try to do in yoga is to turn your awareness inward, because our minds are always so distracted, especially these days with all our devices. When our minds are distracted, you have less awareness of your body. You have less feeling in your body. And bringing awareness there and feeling there is a big first step of making it more healthy. So yeah, it's a little woo-woo, and I think it could be worded better. When I say things like that, I try to word it a little differently. So I'm not trying to sell magic to people. Right. I'm not trying to be that guy who's keeping them in the sweat lodge.
Right.
I try, especially now I've been teaching yoga for a long time. I'm trying to be much more upfront and much more realistic about what you can expect from it. And you can expect some great things, but it's not magic.
Right. It's work, right? You got to do.
It's work for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm interested to see. I like to incorporate. And is that the technique we're going to show today? Like yoga techniques?
Yeah, I think so.
That'd be.
I'll show a few.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be really cool when we do that later.
And everyone should follow Jim, because he's giving away a lot of great stuff on social media.
Thank you.
That
Really?
Yeah. So you can get an idea of some of the stuff that he teaches in his courses, in his seminars, in his classes. Just by peeping his Facebook or his Instagram.
Cool. What I do now, I only follow up to 20 people on Instagram.
Oh.
So this is my new thing.
Oh, geez.
So I'll start.
Did I make the cut?
No, you didn't.
God damn it.
So what I'll do is basically, as if I want to start following someone else, I unfollow people. So I cycle. I don't want to do more than 20 people. I'm trying to get down to 15 realistically.
Jeez.
I just don't want to spend a lot of time.
narrow that feed.
That's a good idea.
Because it becomes very unprecuntive.
Right.
There's nothing I need
That's for
to, and if you're not showing jujitsu techniques, then I'm out. There's no reason for me to follow.
See, okay, not that I want to get into an argument on how you should run your social media, but the guys I really am super focused in on, I make sure that I tag them, or I get the notifications so that I see everything they post. I get a notification of it. And the people that I'm just like, I'm interested in what you're doing, but I don't necessarily need to see everything. I'll occasionally check in on you, and that person just gets a normal follow without getting the notification.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I gotta learn how to do that.
Yeah, I don't know how you did that.
I'll show you.
So you can get a notification when someone does something?
Yeah. So and so has posted.
I don't want to see their food for the day.
Well, okay. Instagram has no way of parsing out which.
Okay. But so you could potentially just see, hey, I just ate a bowl of acai.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. At least I don't know. Maybe there is a way that where you can only get video notifications or something like that. But as far as I know, there's just notify me or not.
Because you want to, I follow the Mendes brothers, and I like their Instagram, but their Instagram is kind of like disappointing me lately, and I'm going to unfollow them.
Man,
they show great technique, but then they sprinkle in like their family time and their kids show up on there. I'm just not a fan of like
children. He hates children.
No,
That's
no,
what
it's just there's no reason. Like, what are we doing?
I'm with
here?
you on that.
Why are you showing me?
No, I get it. Like, a lot of people use their Instagram for a combination of personal stuff and business stuff.
They should have just had personal. Let it separate from their.
I've been told by
a
a self-proclaimed social media expert that that's a good idea, because then people who follow you feel like you're a normal person, so they can connect with you a little bit more, as opposed to just posting
pure professional
stuff. So like at some point there's more of a connection. It's like, oh, Johnny's got a cat too.
Right.
There's more of a connection. I'm obviously not working with you.
Yeah, it's not working with me. No,
I mean,
I'm out.
Yeah.
See ya.
And again, like me personally, like if I'm going to post a picture of my food, it's going on my Facebook page, not on my Instagram.
Oh, that's how you do it.
My Instagram is at this point, now you scroll back far enough, there's like a picture of my kid and like some random things that I thought were cool or funny or whatnot. But like my Instagram at this point is purely for, competition, post training, like selfie with a black belt at a seminar, finally got to meet so-and-so, ran into Henzo at Masters Worlds, took a whatever it may be. So it's all sport related stuff at this point.
But then you have to incorporate the stories, because stories, I've been told, is a different strategy altogether.
Yeah, it is. Like,
what's that?
I don't know.
I know what the stories are, but like, what's strategy?
That's a big thing that, like, I don't want to say it doesn't appeal to me, but like, that's not my reason for going on most people's Instagrams, because stories are very short term, so like it builds that like, oh, he's doing something, I have to click on it before it's gone. We're relying on that fear of missing out sort of.
I think it's their answer to what's
Snapchat.
Snapchat,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's very much stolen from Snapchat.
God, social media.
But yeah, like Facebook has stories now. Like all that stuff cross pollinates. We'll see where it is in 10 years from now and be like, oh yeah, did you check out Tim's Hypercube thing? And I'm like, oh my God, I just threw together words. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Everyone's like, what's this Hypercube thing?
Yeah, I've just invented something. But yeah, no, it's interesting. Let's bring it away from social media for a second.
Wherever you want to go, Hap.
I know how much you hate it.
I'm just
Here he is attempting to run a media empire. See everything we have here and what we're trying to build. And he's like, yeah, but fuck all social media. Like, we're gonna do this the old-fashioned way, word of mouth. Flyers at tournaments, maybe.
Just guerrilla marketing.
Please grab a business card. Grab several.
Well, that's why he's got you.
There you go.
Man, I like social media and I like trying to leverage it and whatnot, but I don't like spending too much time on it. Like I know people that like really, you should probably put down your fucking phone and actually practice the thing that you're constantly talking about on your social media.
I just think it gives people like opportunity to show themselves in their best light. Obviously, we only want to put the best picture out there and the best this and everyone's narrative is pretty much the same. It's just the same. Same stuff.
It depends. Like take Josh Hinger. Like there's a dude who's constantly posting like really awesome inspirational stuff, and also like, I got smashed so hard today. Like Andre Galval kicked the shit out of me. Yeah. It was terrible, and I can't wait to do it tomorrow. But he's
the exception. He's not
right. But I'm saying, like, there's absolutely guys like they're posting the highs, they're posting the lows, and everything in between.
The problem is that everyone thinks they could do what he does, and that
get smashed by Andre Galval. No, I'm confident. I absolutely could.
100%. Yeah, but Hinger's his whole. He's a very intelligent guy and he's very articulate and he knows what he's just an extraordinary person.
Right.
Not everyone can be Josh Hinger, but a lot of people then look at that and like, oh, I could do that, or I can do this, and then all of a sudden you have,
nonsense.
Yeah. Well, it's like, oh, I can repost an inspirational and make people think I, think this or do this, and
inspirational
makes me look good, and I don't know. It just gets to be like, and then. It gets people like, I guess I feel like I hate going down this road, but
no, it's too late.
They follow thousands of people, and then they get thousands of follow backs, and then they're talking like on their Instagram, like people are listening, but they're probably not, because they're only getting like, 8 likes.
Right.
And it's like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I'm embarrassed for them.
I mean, I'm not embarrassed for them.
I am a little bit, because you're not talking to anybody. No one's listening to you. And you're wasting all this time.
See, For me, one of the big things.
Right out there to the gym and make it right.
Yeah. So for me, one of the big things is, and I think I use Facebook and Instagram pretty similarly in this regard. It's like I'm not necessarily talking to my listening audience. I don't think of my followers and friends as like an audience for myself. I'm storing memories down the line. So like if I post like an image of like, oh, you know, got bronze today at such and such tournament,
Right.
you know, that's so that like years from now I can look back and see what was I thinking that day, what was going through my mind, how did I feel? Oh, I remember that, you know, like little things like that. And the fact that other people can share in that is cool. You know, like it's neat when you win something and somebody, you know, posts like, you know, a like or congratulations or whatnot.
Yeah.
Or it's cool when you meet someone and they're like, oh, that guy's awesome. You know, I'm sure you learned a bunch from him or whatnot. So yeah, like I really enjoy getting that feedback, but that's not for me the motivating factor of doing it. Like, I'm really like I have 3 kids and I'm terrible about it. Like I'm trust me, I'm really bad about like putting together like traditional photo albums and stuff like that. But I'm really pretty good about like, oh, I really liked this one picture. Let's put that in an album here online somewhere. You know, so you'll see like again through my Instagram or my Facebook or whatnot, you'll see that that's how I store and remember things. It takes the place of like. A journal or diary and a photo album all kind of in one place.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, and I agree with that.
And it's even better because, you know, at least if I do things right, it's searchable.
Yeah.
You know, whereas my memories are not as searchable as I would like them to
But
be.
I think a lot of people don't do it that way. A lot of people are doing it to be famous or think they're famous or...
Yeah, at no point in time do I ever want to be like, yeah, no, I have an Instagram because I'm an influencer.
Right. Or yeah, that's it. Influencer. That's it.
Yeah,
Influencer.
you know, not my ball at all there.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, let's get back to this yoga because I'm super...
You're super into talking about it, and eventually we're going to convince you to try it.
I want to try it. It's the timing thing.
Have you done a class at all?
No.
Okay.
So it's a timing thing for me. It's like, like you said, you know, I train 4 days a week, you know, and
those are rookie numbers.
I know, right? Well, I used to train more, but then I noticed that I wasn't really benefiting by training more. My body was breaking down.
How old are you?
I'm 43. So my body was breaking down.
And you weren't able to make progress?
Make progress.
Yeah.
So then I was just declining. I'm like, this is not good. So I had to break it down to
and the training include sparring every day?
Every day.
Every one of those days?
Every one of those days, right? Except Saturday is all sparring. So Monday, I teach 6. I teach the 6 to 7. I take the 7 to 8:30, 9 o'clock class. And that's Mondays. Wednesdays, I train from 6 to 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then Thursdays, I teach.
From 6 to 9 o'clock?
Yeah, if we roll long, yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's a fun time. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But in that time, I can easily take 30 minutes or 15 minutes at the end of the sparring and not reduce the amount of rounds and then do some, you know, preventive maintenance. That's what I'm thinking. Like just talking, I'm like, okay, well, I can definitely fit that. If you're talking 15 minutes, I can definitely fit that. And 15 minutes before, I can probably do that. I get to the gym earlier. I leave here. I leave here at 5, get there about 5:30. So I can easily do a 15-minute prior, and I can easily do 15 minutes after.
You know what probably is helpful, and you can feel free to chime in on whether I'm right or wrong there. But and I found this personally with drilling. Like if you're in a gym where drilling isn't already a part of the culture, and you want to be that drill to kill guy, okay, all you need to do is find one person to drill with, and then start building that. And more guys will be like, oh, I'm seeing results from him. What's his secret? Oh, it's the drilling. Right. Okay. Well, if you're seeing results from, you know, incorporating a little bit of yoga and you get one person and then starts to grow, you know, the same thing kind of probably happens.
But that's the thing. Like, so the results you're going to see is what? Less injury or flexibility or mobility or what do you
I think the first thing you'll see is less pain.
Okay.
Less. When I say pain, I don't mean muscle soreness. I mean like less back pain, less pain in your hip joint.
Okay.
You'll see a little bit less of that at a time. You know, it's not magic. Again, it'll take a little time, but you'll feel less of that. And this next one is hard to measure because I'm confident it will reduce injuries while sparring, but it's hard to tell. You know, because we're not gonna do a test on it. We're not going to do an experiment on it. But I will say that I do believe, especially with hips and shoulders, if you have if you have a better range of motion, or if you have good mobility in your hips and shoulders, I feel you will get less injuries, especially with your knees. Because, a lot of times when you suffer an injury, it's the joint that gets injured wasn't the problem. It was either a joint above or below. And the lack of range of motion in that joint made the injured joint take more torque. So I think a lot of it will be hard to measure, but I'm confident that you'll have less injuries, especially if you have more hip and shoulder mobility.
Right.
And then the low back pain, that's kind of an injury too. If it is true like low back pain where you're getting compression on discs, then that for sure is an injury. It's just people tough their way through it, But that's my biggest thing is get people out of low back pain and help them to increase their hip and shoulder mobility, in addition to help them with their breathing.
Did you get into any massage therapy with that at all, or no?
Funny enough, I was a massage therapist for a couple of years before I started teaching yoga.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it, but I enjoy teaching yoga more. So I haven't gotten massage for a long time. I used to get tons of it, but I think it can definitely be helpul.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like getting knots out of your back. Is that so? It's common to get knots in your back. That's just a common thing, right? Even if you don't.
Shoulders.
Right. Shoulder. Everything. Yeah. But do they normally just go away if no one ever got a massage? I don't get massages anymore, but I don't feel like I have knots. So what happens to that tissue then?
I think circulation, and a lot of times when you feel what you think of as knots, a lot of times, again, it's that thing I said earlier about when muscles get pulled on.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those muscles are getting pulled on a lot, and so they're balling up because they're trying to protect themselves.
I see.
So not stretching probably won't help it. It might give it temporary relief, but more a little bit of, like we talked about earlier with the ice and the hot, a little bit of contraction, relaxation, contraction, relaxation. Multiple times of that gets more circulation in there and gets those muscles and those muscle groups working kind of normally again.
I see. Huh, interesting.
But massage therapy helps a ton.
It does.
Just cost a lot.
Yeah, and it's time consuming again.
Yeah.
Another thing, you got 45 minutes, 60-minute massage, and I'm just sitting just wasted my time. It's like,
What about one of those little Tim Tam things?
I have one.
Using
I got
that?
the hyper volt.
Yeah.
The hyper volt's nice. I'm not gonna lie, it's nice, but I don't use it as much as I thought I would use
Man,
it.
it's all the rage at a couple of the places I go to.
Yeah.
Walk in there, you hear the power, the little
Well,
jigsaw
the
noise.
hyper volt, the one I have, Lior is the one who told me about it. It's quiet. Like I could sit there and watch, on my iPad and have it on and still hear everything.
Right. I was unaware that one was that quiet.
It's really quiet. It's really nice. It has 3 levels also. It's not cheap, but I don't know. I do it a little bit and I'm like, all right.
I think that with that, and actually with massage therapy too, it's kind of temporary though,
Yeah, no, I was actually just going to say like that feels really, really good in the moment. And like if I've got something that feels like it needs to be worked out a little bit, it helps me work it out. And then I go and do my thing, and then it usually winds up coming back that
But the
night.
problem is that I'm only going to use it when I feel bad. I'm not using it when I feel good at all.
No, but
so that's why, like, going back to your point, it's like, well, you're really not
too late.
It's not really too late, but is it really doing anything?
That's more. It's like putting a Band-Aid on it afterwards, kind of. Yeah.
I think a lot of times, and there's exceptions, of course, especially with jiu-jitsu, because we're in so many funky positions and someone's trying to smash us,
Wait, you're saying being inverted isn't like normal for people?
But, a lot of, and this actually goes to something I heard you say before about, when, I think you said it, if you have a neck injury, you shouldn't just quit jiu-jitsu, you should maybe not go inverted so much, Right. You need to develop other parts of your game. I think that, with exceptions, of course, that we get soreness, pain, and sometimes injury because of the habits we have, from something we're doing a lot of. Mm-hmm. And a little massage, a little of the, whatchamacallit, that's going to help temporarily. But when you go back to doing your normal thing, you're probably going to end up the same way you were,
Yeah.
So you either change the way you approach jiu-jitsu or you add another habit that's going to make you stronger in that area. So, like going back to my example of low back pain, if your low back is killing you, and I always play guard, you got to get yourself out of that position more often, and or you need to strengthen the part of your body that gets weak in that position, which is your low back mostly. So doing actions where you're strengthening weak parts of your body, I think, are more effective than massaging or stretching other parts of your body. I always go with strengthening. Throughout all my wrestling and all my yoga and jujitsu, it's really rare that I've made myself feel better. I almost said healed, but made myself feel better by stretching. I've oftentimes made myself at least relieved pain by finding a body area to engage, to strengthen. I think if you go with the stretching too, I think it's temporary. If you're not strengthening the weak part of your body that is adding to that pain.
No, that makes sense. I mean, like when we do physical therapy, oftentimes they're talking about I don't know, you've got a tear in your knee. Let's strengthen the support area around it. You've got a problem with the disc. Let's strengthen the core. So that all fits in that theory.
Well, with
nice,
my
actually.
rib injury, the physical therapist was like, okay, we have to strengthen your obliques. We have to sit there and work your obliques to their. You start using that muscle to protect the other. So
building that armor, as someone might say. Yeah.
I guess. But it's forever. It's not like it's something you have to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That's it. Just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like jujitsu in that regard. It's a habit, right?
Yeah.
And
it's just incorporating it into his schedule.
Right. Yeah, and I think that
regimen.
that's what I don't want to say most interested, but that's the insight that I think most people probably need the help with, because that's everyone. Okay, LCCT Schaumburg literally used to be in Tri-Balance Yoga, which is one door down. We have a really excellent, well-known yoga studio right there. And we absolutely have some guys and gals that do yoga, but there's plenty of the guys that are just like, yeah, no, I'd love to do yoga. Like Luis, talks about the values of yoga. Hickson talks about the values of yoga and everything. I'd love to do it. But when do I find the time? And that's because I think most people have that impression, like, oh, I need to wake up at 5 a.m. to get to a 6 a.m. hour-long yoga class so I can, shower and go to work. Maybe it doesn't take that much. Maybe that's if you really want to practice yoga. You're going to need that. But
thousands of years.
Right.
Yep. And throughout, kind of like jiu-jitsu, throughout those thousands of years, it's changed a lot. Whereas, even if a yoga practitioner from 200 years ago were to see us today, they would be kind of confused at what we do.
Really?
And for sure, 1,000
it's those
years ago,
little foam blocks, isn't it?
That's partly it.
What is the word yoga? Where does that come from?
It's a Sanskrit word, so it's an ancient Indian language. It comes from India, yoga. It means union, and it's implying that you're balancing two opposites or making a union between two opposite forces, kind of like yin and yang in a way.
Okay.
It started out as a meditative. For the most part, started out as a meditative practice, whereas it was meditation. Yoga was meditation.
Right.
Throughout the years, it's changed quite a bit, obviously. So, like I said, if an ancient practitioner came to see us now, they'd be very confused at what we do in yoga. Most yoga classes. Unfortunately, especially here in the West, a lot of yoga has been taken out of yoga, where now it's kind of reduced to stretching. And almost a glorified aerobics, and that's unfortunate. Our studio, I have a yoga studio called Tejas Yoga in the South Loop.
What's it called?
Tejas Yoga. It's spelled Tejas. Okay. That's a Sanskrit word that means a radiance or a luminosity.
I totally was reading that as Tejas.
And most people do. Most people are familiar with Spanish, and Tejas means Texas in Spanish. So
I thought.
It's been, we were aware of that. We've been around for nine years now, so we were aware of going into it, but we just figured, it's part. Our studio is a little unique, so we figured it's just going to be another thing that we're educating the Chicago yoga community about, because it's an important word in yoga, in the tradition of yoga.
I see.
Anyway, we're known as but maybe the most traditional yoga studio in Chicago, where we teach what we feel is a complete yoga practice, where there's stretching, we're holding some postures, there's some movement, but there's plenty of emphasis on breathing, and there's always some meditation in there too.
So not like a Bikram yoga?
No, not like a Bikram.
So what is that? Is that the Yuhu stuff or Woohoo stuff?
Bikram yoga, I think it's got some pros and cons. It's a set sequence of postures, 26 postures, and 2 different breathing techniques. And the sequence of postures that they always stick to, it's a fine, basic sequence of postures. It's not bad. It's in a really hot room. I think it's 108 degrees.
Jeez.
And it's a little, it's a little rigid for me. And obviously, like I said earlier, it's too hot for me. I think.
But then the guy who came up with that, I've seen him like kneeling on people's backs. And
That's a
doing
whole
some
crazy story. That dude.
crazy stuff.
Yeah,
Crazy story. You could have a whole podcast on it.
That one is something that if you're interested in it and you want to have an interesting read on some controversial stuff, go Google
He's
that.
a nut job, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's out there.
Very charismatic in that job.
Yeah. He's not in jail, right?
Last I heard, they couldn't find him. They want to put him in jail.
Oh, they want to put him in jail, but they haven't found him yet.
But no one knows where he is. Last I heard, I don't follow it too much. But last I heard.
I haven't Googled it in a while, honestly. But yeah, there's been a lot of bizarre stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So like I said, it's a fine sequence of postures they always stick to. It makes sense in the way it's set out, and he's a real charismatic guy and a good businessman. He sold a lot of people on it.
Yeah.
That's the way. You have to do it this way. This is the only way you can do yoga. If you don't do this, it's not yoga. He's a character.
Which is pretty preposterous because I mean, like I'm not a yoga practitioner at all, and I know just from cursory study that there are a variety of different styles of yoga, each with their own preferences. Above and beyond simple designations between like regular yoga and hot yoga. You have I'm going to embarrass myself trying to name all the ones that I can think of, but yeah, like they each have different names. Presumably, I think it's all from like the founders or
sometimes.
Okay.
It's yoga is such a big, vast topic. It's kind of, you can't even compare it to jiu-jitsu. You'd have to say yoga is like, you can compare it to martial arts.
Okay, right.
There's so many different approaches to martial arts. There's so many different approaches to yoga too.
So yoga is the generation of martial arts, right? So those two would go together. Like
right.
Taekwondo, you have
and then like if we were to isolate jiu-jitsu, it'd be kind of like isolating like Bikram yoga. Like those are specific styles, a specific style of martial arts, specific style of yoga.
I see.
So they're very, very different. Oftentimes named after the kind of the founder, so to speak.
Right.
Sometimes just named after a philosophy of yoga. There's a style called Ashtanga yoga, which is you may have seen before. It's the approach that really attracted me at first. It's very vigorous. You do a lot of it requires a lot of core strength. There's a lot of jumping around. You sweat a lot. It's not in a heat room, but you end up sweating a lot. And Ashtanga means 8-limbed, and it's basically talking about very similar to like an 8-fold path of Buddhism. It's 8 different steps to have success in yoga.
Don't they have like aerial yoga too? Is that a thing?
Yeah, aerial yoga. They've got all kinds of yoga. They have goat yoga. They have beer and yoga.
Wait. Let's rewind it here. What did you just say?
Goat yoga?
Goat yoga.
With live goats?
Oh, yeah.
That sounds bad. That
I'm
sounds like a really bad
disturbed
idea.
and fascinated. I'm going to definitely Google this when I have a chance.
Although I did have a client, and I think they're still around. Actually, I know they're still around. It's called Canine Fit Club, where you bring your dog with you and you exercise with your dog.
Well, yeah, there's doga too.
Oh, God.
Doga.
What?
Yeah, man. There's gimmicks for everything.
There's gimmicks for
guess,
everything. You all may have seen our friend Paul Doe. He oftentimes shares on Facebook the
Fantastic memes.
Like the martial arts where like they're doing like the chi throwing.
Oh, yeah,
and, the crazy martial arts.
Yeah.
That goat yoga. It's kind of like the sensei who says he can throw you across the room without touching you. It's all kinds of crazy
Super
gimmicks.
woo-woo.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Then it gets blanketed under yoga, and people are like, fuck yoga. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like saying fuck martial arts.
Right.
But we're jujitsu, but now we're in that.
Exactly. It's a good comparison. And some people will argue like, oh no, well it gets more people in the yoga. It's great, but I agree with what you said. Some people see that and be like, I ain't doing that. That's stupid.
Right.
If I saw goat yoga when I first started getting yoga, I wouldn't have been attracted. I would have been, I'm not going to do yoga. They would have totally turned me off.
Right.
You think that's just people who they can't make it? And they're like, I just got to come up with something ridiculous that people, they just can't, they can't just do it.
I don't think you're that far off. I'm sure there's exceptions, but I always tell people, if you got something really good to teach, you don't need any gimmicks.
It's right. What's the gimmick for? Oh, it's so unfortunate.
All right, let's get off the silly gimmicks and get back to serious stuff. So in your practice, like again, break it down a little bit. You're saying there's more breath work than might be typical of a lot of.
Yes. I think the way we approach it, we're including the breath a lot, and also aspects of meditation, but still doing a physical practice also.
Okay.
I think if you take the breathing and the meditation out of yoga, it's not really yoga anymore. It can be a lot of different things,
So, in terms of the physical aspect of it, above and beyond, obviously breathing is physical, but so like, I think a lot of people, like you had said before, have an impression of yoga being mostly like stretching and like holding static poses and things like that. What other elements, like Joey when he was in, he demonstrated a lot of balance work. He's got really good balance work. What other elements like incorporate into that? You were talking about mobility before. How has that worked? And
yeah, I really, in some ways, like I said, we're known as a very traditional yoga studio, but in other ways, we're all for incorporating new things that we learn. Because frankly, when you look at the physical practice of yoga throughout the last, hundreds of years, some of it wasn't that smart. They didn't have the knowledge of anatomy that we have now.
Right.
So some of it is just not that good for you. Sometimes they just did it because it made you tougher, because it was hard to do.
Yeah.
You stood on your head for hours at a time.
ugh.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And maybe have some health benefit. I mean, I'm sure it has some benefits, but it's got a lot of risk too. Your neck's not going to feel so good after doing a 10-hour headstand.
Right.
So anyway, and it's an extreme example, of course. But what we're trying to do also is stay in touch with what's going on in physical therapy. I've got friends who are physical therapists and friends who are chiropractors and friends who are personal trainers and friends who are into this kind of new functional movement, mobility training kind of stuff. And I like to learn from that stuff. I like to learn from that and the stuff that I think is helpful and incorporate into my yoga practice and in my jiu-jitsu training.
How many yoga instructors do you have there?
12, I think.
Oh, wow.
There's I'm one of the co-owners. My friend James Ten is the other one. And yeah, we've got besides us, about 10 other teachers.
Wow. This is a full-time job.
For us, it is. And for our other teachers, probably half of them, it's a full-time job.
Okay.
Half of them do other things.
Okay.
A couple of them have a full-time job and it's to teach like one class a week.
How big is your studio?
It's got two different, within the space it has two different studios. Each studio can hold, the smaller studio can hold like 30 mats. The bigger one, 35, 40, if it's really crowded.
Wow.
They're usually less crowded than that, but if we pack them in, it's a decent size. It's not the biggest yoga studio in Chicago, but it's not a small one either.
Do they do seminars for yoga?
Oh,
do
yeah.
Like invite like top yoga
Yeah,
people?
yeah.
to do seminars?
I've traveled all over the place. I haven't traveled much in the last couple of years, but for a number of years, I traveled all over the U.S., taught in London too, seminars, weekend seminars.
So similar to like jujitsu seminars
Yeah.
where I want to go meet that yoga guy.
Exactly.
And specifically, you do seminars for jiu-jitsu.
I've started, my yoga for grapplers.
Yeah.
I've started doing that, and I really
I've seen
enjoy
yoga
that.
for BJJ. There's been stuff out.
Yep.
I've seen it.
Yeah,
Is
he's Sebastian, a guy in
Is that right? Okay.
Oslo. He's done a really good job. He's got the yoga for BJJ's got a website where he has a lot of classes. He films a lot.
Okay. Is this something you subscribe to? For him?
You can subscribe to that. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mine's a little bit different. I think he's got a lot of content.
Yeah.
I think I take a little different approach to how I teach and what I teach.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a good thing going for sure.
Wow. Interesting. So because I've only heard you and him for BJJ anyway.
Oh, we're
We're
specific.
specific for that. But at your yoga studio, do you have a class specifically says yoga for BJJ, or that's not? part of
Not
that?
a weekly class, but I have. I've done a couple already. Some kind of special classes on a monthly basis, and starting in January, I'll have a one a month on a Sunday.
At your studio.
Yep, at the studio.
As opposed to like doing the seminars throughout. Right. Okay.
Right.
Makes
So
sense.
because it seems like a lot of people take Sundays off from jiu-jitsu. Some do anyway. So it seems like more of an off day for people. So yeah, I figured that might be a good day for people to come in. It's going to be the second Sunday of each month.
I see.
What kind of
9
time
a.m.
frame are you looking at?
9 to 10:30.
Cool.
That's a good time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Not too early, but you still got your day.
Yeah, and then getting to the city at 9:00 is pretty easy on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes, no
True.
traffic.
Yeah. And then in those
Unless there's
classes,
a Bears game.
the Bears game screws up a little bit because we're right by Soldier Field.
Yeah, you are.
And
That's
unfortunately, Both times I've done it so far was during a Bears game.
Yeah, that's
Gonna have to monitor that schedule.
I've tried, I've tried. We'll see.
So
We'll see if they make.
brutal.
They're going to be in the playoffs, so it's going to might screw us up again in January, February, and March.
Wait,
but
they're doing
we'll
good?
see.
I don't know.
I have heard. I haven't watched the game, but I've heard they're doing pretty good.
oh wow.
I think they're in first place.
No,
I think
the Bears. Come on,
in their division.
really?
I think so.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm so not a football. I mean, again, we probably got fans screaming at us right now, but yeah, I'm not really interested in any non-combat sports, and football, while a rough sport, just
Rough
not
sport.
really my thing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So being over there in the South Loop, that's. Yep. What are you gonna do? It's the way it is. I love Chicago.
Yeah. So in those seminars, they're obviously an hour and a half, so we have a lot longer time than I'm saying you need.
Right.
But I'm actually there to say, no, let's try doing this, let's try doing that, and more time
Right.
to experiment.
Correct and-
It's more time to experiment with. I'm not trying to get people to do anything fancy, any fancy yoga poses. I just want them to get teach them basic poses that can be really effective. Specifically for grapplers, because we have some wrestlers come too. Wrestlers.
Is
and
yoga
jiu-jitsu.
similar to? So let's just say, if I'm comparing yoga to jujitsu, there are certain jujitsu techniques that for me, if let's just say Andre's showing a technique, and I'm like, I'm probably never going to use that technique, and he would say this is more for the bigger guys, or this is not going to fit your game. He'll say, Zito, this is not going to fit your game, but do it and see, and if it does, great. No, but then once he's really like, hey, this is for you, he'll say, Zito, this is your shit. I'm like, okay, good. And then it feels good for me. Does yoga have techniques like that? Like for my body style or Javi's body, we're all pretty much the same size here, but for guys who are super tall and big, you would kind of feed them different type of techniques for certain things.
Not so much on their size, but on on their posture, as
I see.
obvious as it sounds, for the way they carry their body. Like I was saying, wrestlers and jiu-jitsu practitioners, we've got somewhat of a similar posture because the way we walk around, the way we hold our bodies, But still, within that, everyone's spine is different.
Right.
Everyone has different injuries. Everyone's got different, Yeah, so there's a lot to go into it, and so yes, the answer is yes to your question, but it wouldn't be based on what you can do, and a lot of people get confused with that in yoga. They're like, "Oh, well, I can put my foot behind my head. I should do it more often. I can do it, so why shouldn't I do it?" When chances are that might be the thing that's causing you pain, and that's again an extreme example, bringing your foot behind your head. But some people can do it easily, so they do it more. And that might be causing a problem. So I would, and the way to approach yoga for sure is individualized, because, like I said, everyone's body is different, even though we've got some similar characteristics. So the way I see it is, I look at people's bodies and the way they carry their bodies, the way they move, and then I would say, touching your toes isn't so important right now. Instead, focus on doing this because that's going to relieve your low back pain.
I see. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Man.
So
I'm excited. I want to go see some poses. You want to wrap this up?
Yeah, we probably should.
Yeah.
Sounds
Let's go
good to
do
me.
some. Let's go do some yoga.
Well,
Yeah.
at the very least, let's watch Jim do some yoga.
Yeah. Let's do that for sure. Yeah.
we'll get you in there a little bit too, Javi.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right, Jim. So where can people find you?
My yoga studio is Tejas Yoga, Chicago.com. Again, it's spelled TEJAS. YogaChicago.com is the website. More specifically, though, I've got a website called YogaForGrapplers.com.
Okay.
Yoga for the number 4 grapplers.com. And on that website, it gives my little story, but also it has a media page where you can go to Vimeo on demand, and just for $3 you can buy a 15-minute video on a specific yoga practice. So there's one on healthy low back, there's one on hip mobility, there's one on shoulder mobility, and there's a few other ones that you can purchase for just $3.
That's on
$2.99.
Vimeo?
Vimeo on demand, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But you go through it through my website.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool.
And then social media.
Look at me, just my name on Facebook, Jim Bennitt, and Bennitt is spelled Bennitt
There we go.
instead of ETT. And on Instagram, I'm Bolananda.
What is that?
A little bit of a joke name. In serious yoga circles, sometimes you get a spiritual name.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And when I went to India, I went with a large group of people, including my teacher. And when we came back, we went with a group that really took care of us. So, because a lot of times when you go to India, people get sick from the food and the water,
Yeah.
Mostly the water. No one got sick on our trip because they were really careful with like giving us purified water and cooking food and purified water. But when people got back, a lot of people got sick. Mostly, I think, from the air quality. But anyway, I was talking to my teacher shortly after, and he's like, "Hey, do you get sick when you got back?" I'm like, "No, I feel great." And he's like, "Wow, Bola Nanda." And I'm like, I thought he was giving me my spiritual name. Like months later, I saw him, and he's like, "Hey, you know, I was joking, right? I didn't give you a name. I'm like, well, what does it mean?" He's like, "Strong, blissful one. You're strong." So it's kind of a joke. I stuck with it. I use it for Twitter.
Such a cool
Solid name.
Yeah.
Bola Nanda.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. How do you spell it?
Bolananda. Bola Nanda. Bola Nanda. No, there's another A-N in there. BOLANANDA.
Ah, cool. All right, man. I need to get a nickname. I need to get some kind of like.
Oh, you sure need a
I need to
nickname.
get cred.
You're Zitu.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. All right, let's go check out some yoga poses.
do some things.
All right,
Good.
we'll see you guys.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Very Hard to Submit. Go to vhtsny.com and check out their kimonos, compression gear, and apparel. This is a brand we are excited to be supported by. Their gear is high quality with a clean design. Go to vhtsny.com and see for yourself. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. For more information about Grappler Union Podcast, you could visit us at our website at grapplerunion.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Grappler Union. Please like us on Facebook. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And all of our episodes are available on our YouTube channel. Say what?
Be sure to subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to all that shit. You got to do another take, right?
Oh.